Though the copy ability was conceived before much lore was considered, with its many iterations and appearances, there has to be some kind of logic to who has the copy ability and how it functions. So today, we're diving right into everything related to Kirby's unique ability, which, spoiler alert, might be a power possessed by way more characters than you think. I'm Dan, and that's Dawn, and together we are Danger After Dawn. And if you think that this video was good, you should like and subscribe for way more wacky, crazy theory content. In any case, let's get digging.
Let's get right into it by answering what is the copy ability. The copy ability is described throughout the series as the ability to intake an enemy or object to take on their special properties. In Kirby Superstar Ultra, it is specifically described as such.
If you swallow a foe who has a special ability, Kirby will copy its special ability. This is Kirby's special move. It's called his copy ability.
Now, this ability sounds simple on paper. It's sort of just like infinite potential, but there are a few particularities about this power if you look under the hood.
There are a grand total of 70 copy abilities in the Kirby series, which is a lot, but looking at this list under a microscope reveals some strange things. For instance, there are more than a few abilities that step on each other's toes. Some of these include burning and fire, freezing and ice, painter and artist, as well as suplex and backdrop, and throw. Aside from artist and painter, abilities like these have essentially been combined over the years. Burning and freeze only recently have returned in Kirby Air Riders, since they were in the original game. Also, who couldn't want Freeze's adorable little hat back for one more game?
These overlapping copy abilities are a curious case as to the true nature of the copy ability. Now, it's possible that one could argue Kirby's copy abilities work as a sort of list. Like, every enemy in the world has a special set trait, and that gives Kirby one of a certain type of power. Like a list of spells in a magic system. But that doesn't really seem to be how it works. A lot of these overlapping abilities share enemies. For example, Flamer was initially introduced as the enemy that gave the burning ability. However, in recent games, Flamer is lumped in with Hothead and Burning Leo as enemies that give you the fire ability. Burning basically just doesn't exist anymore in most cases. So, what does this tell us about the copy ability? Well, I think it implies that the ability to copy something's attributes, and specifically what attributes to copy, are up to Kirby's discretion, basically. He has to consciously choose what to use a swallowed enemy's attributes for. So essentially, Kirby initially only thought to use Flamer for the burning ability, but later decided that combining burning with the fire as a moveset would be a wiser decision.
This trait clears up more than a few things about the copy ability. Firstly, the original game, Kirby's Dream Land, actually didn't even feature copy abilities. So it could be presumed that Kirby simply didn't realize he could do that, or just didn't want to. Another thing this addresses is the cleaning ability. This ability was introduced in Kirby's Dream Land 3, and was primarily given by the enemy Broom Hatter. After its incredible debut in Dream Land 3, it was banished to another dimension for being awful and bad. Broom Hatter has actually been in a vast majority of Kirby games, even before Dream Land 3, and simply doesn't provide an ability in any of those, except for Kirby Star Allies, where cleaning has an all-new moveset based on the end.
Whoa, don't talk about them yet. That's a whole tangent for later. We're not even gonna bring up their name. Just don't talk about them.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, cleaning returns with an expanded moveset and Star Allies. So this supports the idea that Kirby chooses when and what to copy when he inhales something. The spider ability is also an example of this. The enemy that gives it, Como, has existed in the series for a very long time, before finally being given an ability in Star Allies. And finally, in the Kirby anime, Kraiko summons a bolt of lightning shaped like a sword. And when Kirby inhales it, he becomes Sword Kirby. Now, okay, yeah, yes, it is a sword-shaped bullet of lightning, but like, objectively, it is more lightning than sword. So, theoretically speaking, Kirby has to be deliberately choosing to focus on the sword aspect of this item.
Kirby can do some interesting things with his copy ability when they're outside his body as well. Copy abilities that exist outside of Kirby either take the form of ability stars, copy essences, hats, or ability items. Stars, hats, and items are all dropped by Kirby interchangeably depending on the game. Kirby only drops items and hats in Superstar and Forgotten Land respectively. In other games, Kirby drops a bouncing ability star when he discards an ability. The ability stars take on a special 4-pointed shape in Kirby 64, and Kirby can actually combine abilities together to create an all-new kind of ability known as a power combo. There are 29 combo abilities in total, but Kirby 64 is the only game they appear in, so we lack a lot of info on these, unfortunately.
By some insane miracle, Kirby can also remove abilities from his body and turn them back into living beings he inhaled. Not only that, he can straight up throw friend hearts at ability stars to make them into new allies. He can also transform his helpers into new ones by tossing ability items at all of them. Truly insane. What kind of creature is Kirby?
That's a great question, and seemingly we're not the only people who have been asking that. Throughout the universe, there exist copy essences, ability blueprints, and ability scrolls. Copy essences can be literally found anywhere. In fact, special versions of them give Kirby extended access to a rotating selection of copy abilities, and they exist on certain planets in his solar system. These things seem to have been man-made, or rather ancients-made. Always bet on the ancients. For example, in the light novel, Kirby Meets the Sweet Squad, yes, we're getting into Japanese exclusive light novels, if you even knew those existed. Waddle Dee and Kirby enter an ancient temple and discover a room full of copy essences. Interestingly, Waddle Dee tries to interact with them, but they do absolutely nothing for him. So maybe they were left here because the ancients gave up on trying to use them? Oh, also, in a light novel about Galactonite, the characters purchase copy essences from a shady guy at a space black market. I'm not even sure what purpose these things would be for, because they actually can't be used by anybody but Kirby. This guy is stated to not have been able to sell them, and desperately tries to sell them to Kirby. So that's interesting. Let's back on track.
Ability scrolls also seem to be a facet of this ancient research, but we don't have any lore tied to them aside from their existence. These scrolls are hidden inside treasure chests, and each of them give Kirby a new move for one of his abilities. The real attraction here, though, is the ability blueprints introduced in Kirby the Forgotten Land. We mentioned this a lot in our videos, but the research used to create these is stated to have been based on something similar to Kirby from Popstar in the light novel adaptation of Kirby the Forgotten Land. Also, Kirby appears in the blueprints themselves. These blueprints are for evolved versions of copy abilities, and seem to be the earliest form of copy ability research done by the ancients. Even in their earliest days, they were interested in this mysterious power. We'll have more to say about the blueprints later on.
With that, we've basically covered a majority of the copy abilities attributes. We will continue to expand on these aspects as we get into more details on other things around it. But for now, we're going to talk about who has the copy ability. But before we get into all of that, did you know we have YouTube memberships and a Patreon? If you're crazy, perhaps even a little irresponsible with money, then check out the link on our channel page or in the description. Okay, back to the video. despite the fact that we've only been talking about Kirby, there are actually quite a few characters who may have or are outright confirmed to have the copy ability. This is going to be a tricky subject to tackle. So first, let's solidify what it actually means to have the copy ability.
It's clear that based on every appearance of the copy ability, that at least there are two things that need to happen in order to complete the action of copying. First, the person in question must be able to intake one or multiple things in some form, and then they must be able to take the properties of what they intake. Anyone who has the copy ability must be able to do those two things. Characters like Wispy Woods and King Dedede who can inhale like Kirby, but cannot copy, obviously don't have the copy ability. We will get to Air Riders. Do not think about it right now.
Before we apply this criteria to anyone, let's list who is outright stated to have the copy ability. The Kirby species is being lumped in as just Kirby. So these characters include Kirby, Shadow Kirby, and Gooey. So for Shadow Kirby, in his initial appearance in Amazing Mirror, he doesn't actually use any copy abilities. He later returns in Kirby Fighters with a different appearance for literally no reason, and in that game, he uses whatever ability Kirby has. Now, we're being very strict here. As far as we're concerned, Shadow Kirby is not the same species as Kirby. He is an evil mirror demon that was created by a mirror. That's not a real Kirby, and this is not confirmation that he has the copy ability. And while yes, he, for example, is using fighter ability when fighting Fighter Kirby, that doesn't mean he used the copy ability to get it. Okay, Meta Knight uses a sword, but you wouldn't say that he's using the sword ability with certainty, okay? You wouldn't say he's sword Meta Knight. So we're not cutting corners here. We're running a tight ship. Luckily, in Kirby Fighters 2, it is explicitly stated that he has the copy ability by saying that he has the exact same powers as Kirby. And I know I was being very specific there, but to be honest, I probably would have just said that Shadow Kirby has the copy ability even if they didn't do that, but they did, so it's okay. I mean, he is Kirby. He is a kind of Kirby, sort of. But anyway, next up, there's Gooey. He's a pretty simple case on the surface. He's basically the only character other than Kirby who is treated as a major user of the copy ability. This is stated multiple times in multiple different places. The interesting case comes in with his origins, because Gooey is stated to be made out of the same stuff as dark matter. So even though Gooey's case is simple, we should evaluate the rest of dark matter as well to see what other connections they have to the copy ability.
Dark matter's main trait is their ability to possess others. Many bosses that have strong association with dark matter are seen possessing others in many different ways. In most cases, dark beings and objects are capable of enhancing the powers of those who are corrupted by them. For example, the Dark Hearts in Master Crown can pretty drastically alter the physical appearance of those they cross paths with. If you really sit down and think about it, isn't this just an inverse of the copy ability? Like, what level of us here? We've defined the copy ability as intaking something to use its unique properties. But with dark creatures, they enter the body of other people to use said people's unique properties. This inverse copy ability idea actually has more credence when you consider that dark matter enemies have been able to conjure elements and abilities out of nowhere. Dark Nebula, and especially Miracle Matter, both directly make use of different elements, with Miracle Matter in particular actually requiring a matching ability to defeat it. Highness, who practices dark arts, is also an excellent user and teacher of elemental magic. And funnily enough, they are the exact same elements Dark Nebula uses. So does all of the Dark Matter extended family have the copy ability? No. Aside from Gooey, they do not fit the traits at all. However, they clearly have a close relationship with the copy ability, which is likely why Gooey has it in the first place. I think it's important that we keep that in mind for the future.
Okay, so that's all the normal characters. Let's get to some questionable weirdos. Let's start off a little light with the Knight characters, Meta Knight, Galactic Knight, and the Morpho Knight. Now, none of these guys have been shown using the copy ability, but it is notable that they all seem to be the same species that has some connection to Kirby's own species. This is mostly because of Meta Knight. The jury is out on Morpho. The simple answer is no, they don't have it because we've never seen them do it. But I want to have some fun, so stick with me here. Is it possible that they don't use it by choice? The Kirby Clash series features 4 Kirbys that never use copy abilities either. They are instead specialized into 4 different classes. Even though we never see them copy, they're Kirby, so I don't see a reason why they wouldn't be able to. While unconfirmed, it could be possible that Meta Knight and Galactic Knight are simply specialized in sword fighting. Just food for thought. But we're gonna have to lean on a hard maybe, probably heading towards just no.
Morpho Knight is a lot more iffy though. Unlike Galacta Knight and Meta Knight, we can actually see its full body, and its face is pretty different from the other knights. However, like Kirby, Morpho Knight consumes others to use their powerful souls. But Morpho Knight doesn't seem to be copying its victim's abilities. Now this has been up for debate because Morpho Knight's first appearance was a consuming Galactic Knight, which would mean Morpho has the copy ability by possessing it simply copies Galactic Knight's knighthood. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. The light novel featuring Morpho Knight makes it very clear that Morpho has existed before. A butterfly from the underworld named Poppy claims that red butterflies seek out strong souls to become a terrifying knight. Morpho doesn't even encounter Galactic Knight until much later in the story. Kirby's star allies suggest this as well, by saying Morpho Knight has a dark history, implying it's been around before. And the nail-like coffin in the Kirby's Forgotten Land, where a red butterfly consumes Forgo, but still becomes Morpho Knight. In fact, only one of his attacks is even altered by consuming Forgo, so it doesn't seem to be really copying anything. The true nature of this guy is up in the air, but we've got to give Morpho a big fat no on the copy ability. But that could easily change to a yes depending on how you want to interpret some of this guy's lore. The evidence just doesn't seem to be very strong for that in our opinion.
Easy to digest stuff here. Our list remains tight-knit and sound. But that might change because we got some animal-like creatures to talk about. These 6 rambunctious little rascals are going to give us a run for our money. Rick, Kine, Ku, Nago, Choo Choo, and Pitch. All 6 of these characters have been shown using the copy ability alongside Kirby and Gooey. So our answer might seem like a simple yes, but no. It's actually not that simple, because of all of these characters, only one actually does the copying. For every animal friend, either Kirby or Gooey are the ones consuming an enemy to take their ability. Rick is the sole exception. And this breaks everything, because once we look closer at these abilities, they start to make less and less sense. Yes, Kirby and Gooey are copying abilities for most of these friends, but all of them have examples where Kirby and Gooey aren't the ones actually being changed by said copy ability. Even Rick has the inverse issue. So how does this even work? It's pretty explicitly stated throughout the series that copying abilities is Kirby's own unique technique, and it is treated as an oddity that Gooey can do it too, even though he's from the same game as these animal guys. It's strange because unlike Kirby and Gooey, there isn't a single source that just says the animal friends have copy abilities. At least not that I could find. Even Nago's DDD directory tweet calls it a friend ability. So, like, what's going on here?
To answer this question without a boatload of speculation just yet, maybe we need to look a little further out than the Kirby series itself and even its extended media. Super Smash Bros. Melee! In this game, Rick has a trophy. Now, notably, Rick is the only animal friend who eats enemies himself, and is the only friend with a trophy in this game. And his trophy says, and I quote, when he carries Kirby on his back, he can mimic Kirby's copy powers with some special moves of its own. Do you realize what this is saying? It's saying that Rick has copy powers because Kirby, and implicitly Gooey, is with him. Now, while this is only for Melee, there is actually a precedent for this in the series. Or rather, Dreamland 2 and 3 establish a precedent that is carried into multiplayer Kirby games. Both Kirby's Return to Dreamland and Kirby's Star Allies players could ride each other, not unlike Kirby riding the animal friends. While this doesn't allow for characters other than Kirby to use copy abilities, because that would just be insane to program, in both of these games the characters can do team attacks by holding the guard button at the same time. So, within the Kirby series, it is canonically possible to share powers with another person through proximity. It seems that anyone can do this, but with Kirby and Gooey, they can share their copy ability.
This actually explains why it's so inconsistent whether Kirby or the friends are affected by an ability, because the usage of it is shared between them, so it is interchangeable. But this isn't a perfect explanation, because Rick, Klein, and Koo have returned outside of Dreamland 2 and 3. In both Kirby Fighters 2 and Kirby Star Allies, they can use attacks from their abilities without Kirby. We can go two ways about this. Technically, they are not copying anything in either of these games. Like, just because Meta Knight has a sword attacks doesn't mean he's literally Sword Kirby, you know, that thing we just mentioned. That's why we only gave him a soft maybe. It's very possible that these guys have access to these powers now and have learned how to use them without needing Kirby. After all, permanently giving others access to special powers is a pretty common occurrence in the Kirby series. DDD learned how to hover from Kirby. The Mage Sisters were attuned to elemental magic by Highness, and Magolor can recreate Kirby's Ultra Sword using his own magic. So it's pretty fair to say that the Animal Friends did this as well. But that's also a lot, so I guess if you want to be simple, you can just say they're copying something off screen. But I don't know, where's the science behind that one, huh? Where's your big science behind that?
And it's worth reiterating that Kirby and Gooey being the only copy ability booters, you know, aside from Shadow Kirby, has also mentioned over and over throughout the series. Basically every time Gooey appears. So yeah, I think we can safely say that despite all of the characters we have gone over, our list is still tied down to those three.
Editing Dawn here, I completely neglected to mention the Robot Armor from that 3DS game I forgot the name of. It stated that the Robobot armor produces different powers based on its pilots, which I think reinforces the idea of sharing power through proximity. In this case, it's with a machine, as you have to ride the machine just like you have to ride an Animal Friend or your buddies in the multiplayer games. And wouldn't you know, Kirby's copy ability gives the armor the ability to shapeshift and, you know, copy abilities. So there's actually a canon in-universe method of sharing the copy ability that clears up the whole Animal Friend thing.
Sounds good, right? No. You see, somehow it gets even more convoluted than these guys. We've been able to give you a good answer for all these characters, but there's one guy from one game who is genuinely unsolvable. This thing is such a glup shitto Kirby character. There's literally no information on him aside from what he does. We are talking about Droppy from Kirby and the Amazing Mirror.
Good God, this enemy.
So here's what Droppy does. Droppy chases down Kirby if he has an ability, swallows him, steals the ability, and then turns into a pink version of the enemy it inhales to get said ability. If you've been paying attention, you probably already see the paradox here based on the logic we just established. Obviously, we stated having the Kami ability means consuming something and using its powers for yourself. Droppy does this, but we also just laid out a pretty solid explanation for how sharing powers by proximity is a canonical thing Kirby characters can do, in that Kirby does that to share his Kami ability with others. Droppy cannot copy abilities by consuming enemies. He just doesn't do that. He will only do it by eating Kirby. And he can't even do it for every ability. Hammer, magic, smash, master, throw, and parasol can't be copied by Droppy. He'll just, I don't know, turn hot pink and freak out or something. So somehow, this guy is both a solid yes and a solid no at the same time.
Oh, fuck. This is why the ancients stopped researching this shit, isn't it?
Okay, so we need to look at it at the bigger picture here. If we're gonna say that Droppy does or doesn't have the copy ability, what does that imply for like the Kirby series at large? As Dawn just alluded to, we already know that there were seemingly failed research on harnessing the power of copy abilities by ancient civilization. If Droppy doesn't have the copy ability, it is just stealing it from Kirby, then why would this research have failed? In fact, why couldn't any enemy that inhales Kirby do the same thing? It would seem a bit contrived to think that getting the copy ability would simply require extracting it from a Kirby or something. I think the piggybacking sharing power thing shows that sharing the copy ability with others is a mutual exchange. Therefore, it cannot be taken, only shared between friends. I think the easiest answer to suggest in this case is that Droppy just has a similar but distinct version of the copy ability. It may be reliant on Kirby, but Droppy can copy with its own bizarre properties, just to a very limited and vital degree.
Well, shit. I guess this Glup Shitto is our coveted fourth copy ability user somehow. You gotta be kidding me. Do we seriously have no one else? Like, how could we possibly have to fold to a random enemy from a single game? This guy is never going to come back. He's completely lore relevant. He wasn't even made when the Kirby lore was a thing. I can't believe this is... I can't believe this. What's next? Are we gonna have a serious discussion on Batamon? But just because he looks like Kirby, oh man, he's just like Meta Knight. Oh, I guess that's maybe he's so funny. God damn.
Oh my goodness. We have unambiguous, almost completely overlooked, lore relevant 5th and 6th copy ability users. Kirby in the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch 2 engine and plus Dark Quest Worlds introduce us to Medion Ephelis and Fecto Ephelis. You may be confused, because these guys have been around for a while at this point, and no one really even talks about this aspect of them, but they do indeed have the copy ability, albeit it's significantly less efficient than Kirby's.
So to just start with the plain text, it is explicitly stated that the spears these two wield were created uniquely by what they consumed to gain their matured form. This is perfectly in line with the definition we set for the copy ability. And in case that wasn't good enough, we visibly see Medion Alphas gain what is essentially the starry copy ability by consuming a bunch of starries. Interestingly though, it looks like it needed to do like 100 of them to do this. And for Alphas, consuming a bunch of animals didn't even really work. So their version of the copy ability seems to be much less efficient than Kirby's, since Kirby only needs to eat one guy. So it's very interesting.
It seems that the implication is that they need a lot of power to sustain their perfect form, and the Beast Pack just wasn't enough to complete Ephelis. However, Ephelis does manage to steal a bit of Morpho's power when the knight is defeated by Kirby, and this does push Ephelis over the edge. By combining those souls with Morpho's power, it becomes Chaos Ephelis. embodying the strength of all matter and possibility. Which, hey, that sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? And that orb on Medion's head, it also looks familiar. Huh.
We need to go deeper. Sure, we have named all of the copy ability users, but there's such a massive disparity between the Kirby's, Gooey, and the Elfless twins. And Droppy, I guess. But something does unite all of them. Shared visual elements and characteristics with one all-encompassing type of being. It's time to talk about Void is a type of being that exists in different instances across all known dimensions. Now, we had to scrape through some ancient text for this, and for some reason everything written about this thing is in fucking riddle, so bear with our interpretations of what Void is. Void is considered the origin of origins, as in all life and matter in any given universe come from Void. Now, I will say up front, I do not think that this means literally everything that exists is a Void incarnation, because there are some genuine people that think that, and I have talked to them, and I don't know why they think that. It's very bizarre. Rather, I think that Void works more like a universal ancestor, like an amoeba or something. There are certain species in the world that maintain strong ancestral ties with Voids and carry on some of their properties, while most things that exist in Kirby's multiverse are further down the evolutionary tree. We say this because Medion Elfless shares a lot of visual traits and descriptors with other species in the series. Medion summons enemies with one eye and has one eye in its true form, and it's described as a being of darkness. Thus, it is clearly connected with dark matter. We also just discussed how Medion has a weak version of the copy ability, which connects him to Kirby and Gooey. However, Medion also shares the squiggly line pattern thing that has been used to signify things that are connected to Void. So aside from what we've already discussed, what is it about Void that makes it the origin of the copy ability?
Within the Book of Legends, it is written that Void is imbued by and resembles the energies gathered within its body. In Kirby's stylized, we see Highness attempt to influence a Void's birth by filling a vessel called the Jamba Heart with his visions of a destroyer god. Void Termina's dark heart is amplified by the negative feelings of hatred, obsession, jealousy, and greed that Highness poured into the vessel. Murdoch Taranza uses his own thoughts of a powerful warrior to alter the form of his world's Dark Mind into King D-Mind, who is likely made of the same stuff as dark matter. So we have a situation where someone is intaking something to take on its properties and alter its appearance. Yep, that is the copy ability, a sort of primordial version of it. Rather than copying a physical object, it functions on an emotional level. Voids copies the thoughts and feelings of the people around them. I mean, I don't think we need to sell that most people on the Void connection to dark matter and Kirby. We already analyzed that connection through Medion Elfless' shared traits. Do you really need this video to be 20 minutes longer? If you hate Void and Kirby being related, you would have clicked off this like a while ago.
With that, we have gone from the absolute most basic understanding of Kirby and his special ability to their root at the origin of all matter in the entire universe. A fitting conclusion to our journey to solve all of the mysteries of the ever elusive copy ability. Thank you for watching.
Are they gone yet?
Alright, let's get to some bullshit. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, my fucking god. Okay.
It's okay. We're gonna
Oh
get
my
through this.
God.
We'll be okay.
Oh
Please,
my
please stop.
God.
Please stop. It's
my
okay. Please calm down.
God.
Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Come on. Please. Come on.
In Kirby Air Riders for the Nintendo Switch 2, every single character can use the copy ability. Every single one. Magdalore? Copy ability. Lo, and La. Oh, they're copying it up. Starman? Oh, you bet your bottom fucking dollar he's copying. Everyone we just talked about. Let's just throw all of it out. None of it matters. I'm gonna lose my mind. I worked on this for months. Oh my god.
No, I'll take it up here. I'll take it up here. Okay. So, Kirby Air Riders splits copying into two categories: inhaling and capturing. Basically, enemies that have big mouths like Kirby did to inhale enemies, while others use their hands to vacuum enemies. There isn't really anything else to go off of. The characters can just do this in this game. So I guess this raises the question of if we simply discard everything we've established earlier as unintentional? Did none of this matter? All those little details and world building things and being outright stated that Kirby and Gooey are the only ones with the truest form of the copy ability? Surely that matters, right? It feels strange to just completely toss out this game lore-wise because of its inconsistencies with the main series, or for just who can use the copy ability. Like, everything else in this game works. I think in order to understand this decision, we need to look outside of Kirby Air Riders itself to understand Sakurai-san's decision. In the first Kirby Air Riders Direct, Sakurai-san addresses this oddity with the copy ability. He says, according to the subtitles, this game is in the Kirby series, which means Kirby can attain different copy abilities from enemies. That skill is unique to him, but that would create an advantage over the other riders, so it creates too much of a gap in the fun. So here, we made it so that other riders can also use copy abilities. Wait, you went that far? Yes, we did. So basically, even in Sakurai-san's eyes, this is a departure from his vision of Kirby's world and Kirby as a series. This mechanic purely exists because, well, a Kirby game needs copy abilities, and having characters other than Kirby essentially requires this liberty to be taken. Even though, as Sakurai-san jokes about himself, breaking this core convention of the series is going pretty far. I have to say though, I admire the boldness. I don't think this alone necessarily breaks anything, because it's not really meant to be lore at all, which I know could be confusing, but in all fairness, Kirby isn't a series that has always had lore in the way it does now, especially now that Sakurai-san was around. And even he is quite respectful of it in Kirby Air Riders in its many small ways. The main series isn't immune to having some elements that might seem odd from a lore perspective, but don't really mean much. Like, a bunch of Kirby games have an unexplained keychains, stickers, puzzle pieces, and figures of a bunch of characters that doesn't really matter. We got Mario in some games, Tom Nook, Howlroos, Magoland masks with different deity designs. Ultimately, it's for fun! But I guess if you really want a lore answer, we can just say that everyone has the copy because they're such good friends of Kirby that he can share with them for this little sporting event.
I suppose you're right, but it just feels so odd. Like, how is anyone supposed to know what can and can't be taken as lore, and what's canon and what's not, and who's right and wrong? Or what's just a mechanic and what actually means something? There's no system for this, no rules. How can we possibly hope to understand Kirby's world in its entirety if there's just stuff in these games that we have to ignore and overlook?
We have to be flexible. We have to understand the world in our own way, not objectively. Reducing Kirby and his origins to a science, isn't that what brought the agents to their end? We have to adapt. We have to be able to change what we think and how we think, whether we see something new and strange. We have to intake the world around us and use the meaning we find in it to shape our views. Just like Kirby and his copy ability. So in conclusion, Kirby's copy ability, a core facet of his character, is just as mysterious as the character himself. A select few characters across the series possess a very similar power that we have classified under the copy ability umbrella. In general, the copy ability seems essential to the very foundation of Kirby's world. Maybe that's why the agents sought to understand and utilize. Well, we surely won't be using any of this thought to do anything evil, no sir, no.
Perish the thought. No, not heavens. No, not us.
At the end of the day, we may never have objective answers to the whats and hows and whos of the copy ability, but we can try. And isn't that fun? We hope you've enjoyed our copy ability deep dive, and if you did, maybe like and subscribe.